This happened to me in 2004. I was 23 years old, working the overnight shift at a gas station on South Cleaborn Avenue in New Orleans, right near the Magnolia projects. If you know New Orleans, you know Magnolia was rough. This was before Katrina wiped it out in 2005. Back then it was still standing, still dangerous. I needed the job. Single mother, 2-year-old daughter at home with my mama. The overnight shift paid an extra $2 an hour. I worked 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 4 nights a week, Tuesday through Friday. The gas station was one of those bulletproof glass situations. You talk to customers through a speaker, they slide money through a drawer, you slide cigarettes or whatever back. Safe enough, I thought. The first few weeks were fine. Quiet, mostly. A few regulars, truck drivers, people getting off late shifts. Nobody bothered me. Then he started coming in. White guy, maybe late 30s, average height, brown hair, nothing special about him. He'd come in around 2 a.m. every Tuesday night. Always bought a pack of Marlboro Reds and a Coke. Always paid exact change. Never said much beyond thank you. After about 3 weeks, he started talking more, asking how my night was going, if it was slow, if I got scared working alone. I kept it professional. Short answers. Didn't encourage conversation. But he kept coming back, same time, every Tuesday. Then one night, he asked my name. I didn't want to tell him, but my name tag was right there on my shirt. I said my name was Keisha. He smiled, said it was a pretty name, asked if I had a boyfriend. That's when I knew something was off. I told him I did. A lie, but I needed him to back off. He nodded, said that was good. A pretty girl like me needed protection working nights in this neighborhood. The next Tuesday, he came in at 2 a.m. like clockwork, but this time he didn't leave right away. He stood outside the store, leaning against the ice machine, smoking a cigarette, just standing there, staring through the window at me. I called my manager the next day, told him about it. He said unless the guy threatened me or tried to break in, there wasn't much he could do. It was a public place. People could stand outside. The following Tuesday, he came in again. Same routine, cigarettes, Coke, exact change. But when I slid his items through the drawer, he slid a piece of paper back with the money. It was a note, handwritten. You're beautiful when you smile. I watch you all the time. You don't even know. My blood went cold. I looked up. He was smiling at me. Not a friendly smile. Something else. Something wrong. I didn't say anything. Just locked the drawer and turned away. He stood outside for 20 minutes smoking, watching me. Then he left. I called the police. They came, took a report, said unless he threatened me directly or touched me, it was just harassment. They'd increase patrols in the area. That was it. The next Tuesday, he didn't come in at 2 a.m. I thought maybe the police visit scared him off. I was relieved. Then at 4 a.m., he showed up. Different time. He bought his cigarettes and Coke, slid another note through with the money. I know where you live. Magnolia, Building C, 3rd floor. I know your daughter's name. She's cute. I couldn't breathe. He knew where I lived. He knew about my daughter. How did he know? I grabbed my phone to call the police. When I looked up, he was gone. Just vanished into the night. I left work early. Called my manager, told him I was done. He tried to convince me to stay, said he'd work with me, but I couldn't, not anymore. I went home and didn't sleep. Just sat by the door with a knife, watching through the peephole. The next day, I went to the police station, showed them the notes. They said they'd look into it, but without a direct threat of violence, they couldn't arrest him. Stalking laws in Louisiana weren't strong back then. I stopped working at that gas station, started looking for day shift work. But the damage was done. I was terrified. For weeks I'd see him, or I thought I did, walking past my building, sitting in a car across the street, standing in the grocery store aisle, pretending to look at cereal but watching me. My mama said I was paranoid, that I was seeing things, but I wasn't. One night, about a month after I quit, I woke up to a sound, scratching at my door, soft, persistent scratching. I grabbed my phone and knife and crept to the door. Looked through the peephole. He was standing there, in the hallway, just standing there, staring at my door. I screamed, started screaming as loud as I could. My neighbor came out, an older man who'd lived there for years. The guy ran. My neighbor chased him down the stairs but lost him. Police came, again, took another report, said they'd patrol more, but I knew it wasn't enough. I moved 2 weeks later, out of Magnolia, out of New Orleans entirely. Went to stay with my sister in Baton Rouge. Started over. That was 2004. Then Katrina hit in 2005 and wiped out Magnolia completely. I don't know what happened to him. If he died in the storm, if he moved away, if he found someone else to terrorize. But I still think about him. Every time I work a night shift, and I avoid them now, I think about him. Every time someone stares at me too long, every time I hear scratching at my door, I learned something from that experience. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When your gut tells you something is wrong, listen. Don't wait for it to get worse, because by the time it gets worse, it might be too late. This happened to me in 2008. I was living in Allen Parkway Village in Houston. It's subsidized housing, mostly low-income families. Not projects exactly, but close. I had a one-bedroom apartment on the second floor, facing the courtyard. I was 28, working as a teacher's aide at an elementary school, single, no kids, just trying to make it work in a city that was getting more expensive every year. My apartment was small, but it was mine. I liked sitting on my little balcony in the evenings, having a glass of wine, watching the sunset. The courtyard was nice. Playground for kids, some benches, trees. It felt safe. That's when I first noticed him. There was a man who lived in the building across from mine, third floor, corner unit. I'd see him on his balcony sometimes. He'd wave. I waved back. Neighbor stuff, normal. But then I started noticing he was always there when I was there. Every time I go out on my balcony, within a few minutes, he'd come out on his. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Then I realized he was watching me, not just casual glances, staring. The whole time I was outside, he'd be there, leaning on his railing, looking directly at me. I started going out less, kept my blinds closed more, but I could feel him watching even through the windows. One day, I came home from work and found a note taped to my door. I see you every day. You're even more beautiful up close. No signature, nothing, just that. I looked across the courtyard. His blinds were open. He was standing at his window, watching me. When our eyes met, he smiled and waved. I ripped the note down and went inside, locked the door, called the apartment management. They said they'd talk to him. That was it. The next day, another note. This one was longer. I know your schedule. You leave at 7:15 a.m. Come home at 4:30 p.m. Go to the grocery store on Tuesdays. Wash your car on Saturdays. I love watching you. You move like music. I felt sick. He'd been watching me, studying me, learning my routine. I went to the police, filed a report. They said it was creepy but not illegal. He hadn't threatened me, hadn't touched me, just notes. They couldn't do anything. I started changing my routine, left at different times, came home different ways, stopped going out on my balcony entirely. But he adapted. I'd see him in the parking lot when I left for work, just standing there, pretending to check his mail or talk on his phone, but watching me. I'd see him at the grocery store, different aisles, but always there, following at a distance. One night, I was doing laundry in the building's laundry room. It was around 9 p.m., late, but I'd been busy all day. The laundry room was in the basement, kind of isolated. I was folding clothes when I heard the door open. I turned around. It was him. He walked in, carrying an empty laundry basket. No clothes, just an empty basket. My heart started racing. We were alone. The basement, no cameras, no one else around. He smiled, said, "Hi, neighbor." I didn't respond, just kept folding my clothes, hands shaking. He walked to the washer next to mine, opened it, closed it, opened it again. just pretending to do laundry. Then he said, "You know, I've been wanting to talk to you. Really talk. Not just waves across the courtyard." I said I had to go. Grabbed my half-folded clothes and started putting them in my basket. He stepped closer. "Why do you always run away from me? I'm just being friendly." I said I wasn't interested in being friends. My voice was shaking, but I tried to sound firm. He laughed. "That's not very neighborly." I grabbed my basket and walked toward the door. He didn't stop me, but as I passed him, he whispered, "I know which window is your bedroom." I ran, literally ran up the stairs to my apartment, locked the door, pushed my couch against it. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. I kept checking the door, checking the windows. The next morning, I went to the apartment management again. Demanded they do something. They said they'd talk to him again. I said that wasn't enough. I wanted out of my lease. They said I'd have to pay a penalty, 2 months' rent. I didn't have that kind of money, so I stayed. But I bought pepper spray, a baseball bat, started sleeping with my phone next to my pillow. For weeks it continued. He'd be in the parking lot, at the grocery store, walking past my building. Then one night, I woke up to a sound, a key in my door, someone trying to unlock it. I grabbed my phone and bat and screamed. The sound stopped, footsteps running away. I called 911. Police came, checked the door. No signs of forced entry, but the lock had scratches around it. Someone had been trying to pick it. That was it for me. I packed a bag that night and went to stay with a friend. I came back a week later with my friend's husband and his brothers. We moved all my stuff out in one day. I broke my lease, paid the penalty, went into debt, but I got out. I never found out who he was. The apartment complex wouldn't give me his name, said it was privacy for a stalker. I lived with my friend for 2 months until I found a new place. Different part of Houston, different building. I made sure my apartment didn't face a courtyard. I still think about him sometimes. Wonder if he found someone else to watch, someone else to terrorize. But I learned something. Trust your gut. If someone makes you uncomfortable, don't worry about being rude. Your safety is more important than their feelings. And if you ever feel watched, believe it, because you probably are. This happened to me in 2010. I was 35, living in Atlanta near English Avenue. If you know Atlanta, you know that area. Bankhead, English Avenue, Vine City. It's rough, but it was affordable, and I was trying to save money. I went to church every Sunday, small Baptist church on Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard. I've been going there for about 6 months. Good people, good pastor. It felt like community. I started noticing a car in the parking lot after service, a dark blue sedan, older model, maybe late 90s, tinted windows. It would be there when I arrived and still there when I left. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe someone who went to a different service or worked at the church. But then I started noticing it was always parked where it had a clear view of my car. One Sunday after service, I walked to my car and the blue sedan pulled out right behind me, followed me out of the parking lot, followed me down the street. I thought maybe we were just going the same direction, but when I turned onto my street, the sedan turned too. When I pulled into my apartment complex, the sedan slowed down, drove past, and kept going. My heart was pounding. I sat in my car for 10 minutes watching to see if it came back. It didn't. The next Sunday, same thing. The blue sedan was in the church parking lot. I tried to see who was driving, but the tinted windows made it impossible. After service, I waited, let most people leave. Then I walked to my car. The sedan pulled out and followed me again. This time, I didn't go home. I drove to a busy gas station, pulled in, and watched. The sedan drove past slowly, then circled back and parked across the street. I went inside the gas station and told the clerk someone was following me. He called the police. By the time they arrived 20 minutes later, the sedan was gone. Police took a report, asked if I got the license plate. I hadn't. They said to call if I saw it again. The next Sunday, I almost didn't go to church, but I didn't want to let fear control my life, so I went. The sedan was there, same spot. After service, I talked to the pastor, told him what was happening. He said he'd pay attention, maybe walk me to my car. We walked out together. The sedan was still there, engine running. As soon as we got close to my car, the sedan pulled out and left. The pastor got a partial license plate. We called the police. They said they'd look into it. The following Sunday, the sedan wasn't in the church parking lot. I was relieved, thought maybe the police scared him off. But when I got home that afternoon, I saw it, parked on my street, 3 buildings down from mine. I drove past my building, didn't stop, and called 911. Told them the car was there, gave them the partial plate, told them I was being stalked. They sent a patrol car. By the time they arrived, the sedan was gone again. The officer said without more information, there wasn't much they could do. He suggested I file for a restraining order, but I needed to know who the person was first. For 2 weeks, I didn't see the sedan, thought it was over. Then one night, I was coming home from work around 7 p.m. It was getting dark. I pulled into my parking spot and got out. That's when I saw him, a man standing by the dumpsters, watching me. White guy, maybe 40s, average build, wearing a dark jacket. Our eyes met. He didn't look away, just stared. I got back in my car, locked the doors, and drove away. Went to a friend's house and called the police from there. They went to my apartment. The man was gone. I stayed with my friend that night. The next day, I went back with her and packed a bag. Started staying with her during the week, only going back to my apartment during the day when her husband could go with me. About a week later, my neighbor called me, said someone had been knocking on my door late at night, multiple nights. She'd looked through her peephole and seen a man standing there, just knocking, waiting. I never went back alone after that. A month later, I broke my lease and moved. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. Didn't leave a forwarding address. I stopped going to that church too. Started going to a different one, bigger, more people. I'd get there right when service started and leave immediately after. Never lingered. I never found out who he was. Never saw his face clearly enough to identify him. The police never found him. But I learned something. Predators don't need a reason. They don't need an invitation. Sometimes they just choose you. And if someone is following you, don't go home. Don't lead them to where you live. Drive somewhere public, call for help. Your life might depend on it. This happened to me in 2007. I was 26 years old, living in Memphis near Cleaborn homes. That place doesn't exist anymore. They tore it down around 2013, but back then, it was one of the roughest projects in Memphis. I wasn't in the projects, but I was close. Working construction, living in a small apartment, just trying to get by. I knew to keep my head down, mind my business, don't get involved in street stuff. But sometimes you see something you can't unsee. It was a Friday night in July, hot as hell. I was walking home from the corner store around 11 p.m. Shortcut through the parking lot behind Cleaborn. That's when I saw it. 2 guys standing between cars. One of them pulled out a gun and shot the other one, just like that. 3 shots. The man dropped. The shooter looked up, made eye contact with me. I ran. Didn't think. Just ran. Heard him yelling behind me, but I didn't stop. Ran all the way back to my apartment, locked the door, and hit the floor. My phone was ringing. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again and again. Finally, I answered. A voice said, "I know where you live." I hung up, called 911, told them what I saw, told them someone was threatening me. They came, took a statement, said they'd investigate. The next day, 2 detectives came to my apartment, asked me to describe what I saw. I told them everything. They showed me pictures. I identified the shooter. They said I'd probably have to testify, be a witness. I said I couldn't. I'd be killed. They said they'd protect me. Witness protection maybe. But they needed me. I should have said no, should have refused. But I was young and stupid and thought doing the right thing mattered. Within a week, people in the neighborhood knew I was talking to the police. I don't know how, but they knew. I started getting threats, notes under my door. Snitches get stitches. You're dead. My car got keyed, windows broken, tires slashed. I went back to the police. They said move, get out of the area, lay low until trial. But I didn't have money to move, didn't have family to stay with. I was stuck. 3 weeks after the shooting, my friend Darius, a guy I'd known since high school, didn't show up to work. His mama called me, asked if I'd seen him. I hadn't. They found him 2 days later, shot in the head, dumped behind an abandoned building. Darius was at the store with me that night. He'd walked home a different way. He didn't see the shooting, but people thought he did. So they killed him anyway. I knew I was next. I went to the detectives, told them I couldn't do this, couldn't testify. They tried to convince me, said the shooter was dangerous, would kill again. I was doing the right thing, but I knew the truth. Doing the right thing would get me killed. Another week went by. I barely left my apartment, took time off work, stayed inside with the lights off, curtains closed. Then I saw him, the shooter, standing across the street from my building, just standing there in broad daylight, staring up at my window. He saw me looking, smiled, drew his finger across his throat. I called the detectives. They came. He was gone by the time they arrived. They said they could put me in protective custody until trial. I'd have to quit my job, leave my apartment, basically disappear. I said no. If I disappeared, that meant he won. Meant I had to give up my life because of what I saw, but I was terrified. The next night, I heard footsteps in the hallway outside my door. Heavy footsteps, stopping at my door. I grabbed my gun. I bought one after the threat started and aimed it at the door. The footsteps moved on. I heard another door open down the hall, heard a woman scream, gunshots, then silence. I called 911. By the time police arrived, another witness was dead, a woman who'd also seen the shooting. She'd been standing on her balcony that night. They killed her. That's when I knew I had to leave. Not just the apartment, not just the neighborhood, Memphis entirely. I called my uncle in Nashville, packed one bag, left everything else, left in the middle of the night and never came back. I never testified. The case fell apart without witnesses. The shooter walked free. I heard later that he got killed a year after that. Different shooting, different reason. But those weeks, knowing someone was hunting me, knowing I could be next, I've never been the same. I don't live in Memphis anymore. I don't go back. I learned that in the streets, the code isn't snitches get stitches. It's snitches get body bags. And sometimes, doing the right thing gets you killed. This happened to me from 2012 to 2013. I was 29, living in Miami near Overtown. If you know Miami, you know that area. Overtown, Liberty City. It's the hood. But it was home. I'd been dating a guy for 2 years. Let's call him Andre. We met at a club. He was charming, funny, successful, or so I thought. 6 months in, I moved in with him. That's when things changed. He became controlling. Wanted to know where I was all the time, who I was with. Got jealous if I talked to other men, even just friendly conversation. Accused me of cheating constantly. I told myself it was just insecurity, that he loved me and was scared of losing me, but it got worse. He'd go through my phone while I slept, questioned me about every text, every call, started telling me what I could wear, where I could go. One night, we got in a fight. He grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises. That's when I knew I had to leave. I waited until he went to work, packed my stuff, moved back in with my sister in Liberty City. I thought that was the end of it. He started calling, over and over. I didn't answer. He left voicemails. At first they were apologetic, crying, begging me to come back, saying he'd change. Then they got angry, calling me names, threatening me, saying if he couldn't have me, no one would. I blocked his number. He showed up at my sister's apartment, banging on the door at 2 a.m., screaming my name. My sister's boyfriend had to threaten to call the police before he left. I filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it. Temporary order. He had to stay 500 feet away from me. That didn't stop him. He'd drive past my sister's building, slowly, making sure I saw him. I'd see his car parked down the street, watching. He started showing up at my job. I worked at a clinic as a medical assistant. He'd come in, pretend to be a patient, just to see me. My boss eventually had to ban him from the property. The restraining order hearing came. I showed up with my evidence, Voicemails, texts, photos of him outside my building. He showed up with a lawyer, claimed I was lying, that he'd moved on, that I was just bitter. The judge made the restraining order permanent, said if he violated it, he'd be arrested. 2 days later, he was parked outside my sister's building again. I called the police. They came, ran his license plate, said he was technically 501 feet away, just outside the restraining order distance. There was nothing they could do unless he came closer. He was playing games, testing the limits. I stopped going out alone. My sister or her boyfriend would walk me to my car. I started carrying pepper spray, changed my routine, took different routes to work. But he adapted. He knew my patterns, knew where I'd be. One night, I was leaving work late, around 9 p.m., walking to my car in the clinic parking lot. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. It was him. He smiled, said we needed to talk. I told him to stay away, held up my pepper spray, told him I'd call the police. He laughed, said go ahead. By the time they got there, we'd be done talking. I ran, got to my car, locked the doors. He stood there watching me, not trying to stop me, just watching. I drove straight to the police station, filed a report. They went to the parking lot. He was gone. They issued a warrant for his arrest for violating the restraining order. He turned himself in the next day, spent one night in jail, got out on bond, and came right back. This time, he wasn't playing games. He broke into my sister's apartment while we were all at work, trashed the place, broke furniture, poured bleach on my clothes, left a note on my bed. If I can't have you, I'll destroy you. That was it for me. I couldn't stay in Miami, couldn't keep looking over my shoulder, couldn't keep putting my sister and her family in danger. I quit my job, left Miami, moved to Orlando, didn't tell anyone where I was going. New number, new email, new social media accounts with fake names. I cut off everyone except my immediate family. Started over completely. That was 2013. I heard through family that Andre moved on, got arrested for something else, did some time, got out. Last I heard, he was in Tampa. I never went back to Miami. Too scared I'd run into him, too scared he'd find me. I learned something from that relationship. Love shouldn't hurt. Love shouldn't control you. And if someone shows you they're dangerous, believe them the first time. Don't wait for it to get worse, because it always gets worse. And sometimes, getting out alive is the only victory you get.